there are many ways of knowing, and if we begin to identify a fearful way of knowing, or a self-centered way of knowing, or an angry way of knowing, or a fatigued way of knowing, that can help break up the myth of a solid, independent, separate self. So, and so we could learn to relanguage what's going on. So, for example, instead of "I am angry," we could go, "This is an angry way of knowing." Now, if we can go, "This is an angry way of knowing," and we recognize this is the consequence of knowing in that way, it's easier to release it, to let it go, not to be gripped by it. If we go, "I am angry," once I have an "I am," then we have to justify it. I am angry because, now we're really stuck with it. I am angry because, we can justify it. Now we're justifying an I that is angry because. What I'm suggesting is we might have a shortcut. We might go with, "That's an angry way of knowing." And that makes the experience, it allows the experience to become ephemeral. Once we go, "I am," it ain't going to be ephemeral, because we have an unconscious desire and need to perpetuate the self that is that way. And if we give it up, we give up ourself. Because I should be angry. Do you know? We can go on with the whole narration. And anybody listening would absolutely agree. And that's great. So then it's been validated. I've been validated for my anger, for my upset, or my hurt. So to make this psychologically relevant and less esoteric, we might suggest that we begin to recognize there are many ways of knowing. And that we are always experiencing a way of knowing. All perception is interpretation, and all meaning is attributed. And the perception and the meaning are state-specific. So when there's an angry state, experiences get perceived that way, and meaning gets attributed a certain way. So I want to be as transparent as I can about this. What I'm wanting to do is to break up the solidity of a separate, isolated sense of self that is a thing. Self is not, we are not a thing. We aren't a thing that's a certain way in a world that is a certain way. We live our lives that way. We live our lives that I am this way, and you knew I was this way when we met. Why are you asking me to change? And the world really is that way because, and it gets very, very reinforcing because every position, every knowing point, let's go that way, every position, every knowing point has a view. Instead of the self is depressed, this is a depressed way of knowing. And in the depressed way of knowing, we have a self that is a certain way. That the self is a consequence of how it is known. Rather than the self is causing this depression, I'm doing this to myself. Depression has a self in its content that is worthless, that can't do anything, that is hopeless, that is helpless. That is a consequence of a particular way of knowing.